In the early chapters of Genesis, amid the meticulous genealogies tracing humanity's earliest bloodlines, there exists a brief, enigmatic passage that has mystified readers for millennia. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. In just 16 words, the Bible introduces and concludes the story of a man who, unlike every other patriarch listed, did not die. He simply disappeared. This abrupt narrative interruption stands in stark contrast to the formulaic pattern established for other biblical figures. Where we expect the familiar refrain, "and he died," we instead find something altogether different, something unexplained. What happened to Enoch? Where did he go? What does it mean to be taken by God? The biblical text offers no elaboration, no context, no explanation, just silence. This narrative void has beckoned to the human imagination for centuries, creating a space where wonder, speculation, and mysticism have flourished. Perhaps no other biblical figure has generated such intense curiosity from so little textual material. The mystery deepens when we notice another peculiarity. Genesis records that Enoch lived exactly 365 years, the precise number of days in a solar year. This mathematical precision is unlikely to be coincidental. As the seventh patriarch from Adam, Enoch occupies a position of symbolic significance in the biblical genealogy, with 7 being a number of divine completion in ancient Near Eastern numerology. These numerical coincidences have led many to wonder, was Enoch more than just a man? Was he somehow connected to cosmic cycles and celestial knowledge in ways the brief biblical account only hints at? The answers to these questions remained elusive for centuries, existing only in whispered traditions and fragmented texts, until a remarkable discovery in the mid-20th century changed everything. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd named Muhammad Ed-Dib was searching for a lost goat among the limestone cliffs near the Dead Sea. Throwing a stone into a cave opening to drive out the animal, he instead heard the unexpected sound of pottery breaking. His curiosity piqued. He entered the cave and discovered clay jars containing ancient scrolls wrapped in linen, the first of what would become known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, perhaps the most significant archaeological discovery of the 20th century. Among these ancient texts, scholars found multiple fragments of a mysterious work known as the Book of Enoch. Written in Aramaic, these fragments confirmed what some researchers had long suspected, that the brief biblical mention of Enoch was merely the visible tip of a vast submerged narrative that had once been widely circulated but had disappeared from Western religious consciousness for nearly 2 millennia. The community at Qumran, likely associated with the Essenes, had preserved this text as sacred literature. For them, Enoch wasn't a minor biblical figure, but a central one whose writings contained cosmic secrets and apocalyptic revelations. The Dead Sea Scrolls revealed that parts of the Book of Enoch were among the most frequently copied texts in their library, suggesting its profound importance to this community. What makes this discovery so remarkable is that it represents a missing link in religious literature, a text that was once widely read but had been deliberately excluded from canonical scripture by both mainstream Judaism and Christianity. Only the Ethiopian Orthodox Church had maintained Enoch in their biblical canon, preserving complete manuscripts through the centuries, while the rest of the religious world forgot or suppressed this ancient knowledge. The discovery of the Book of Enoch fragments at Qumran was like finding a lost puzzle piece that suddenly makes the entire picture comprehensible, explains Dr. Lauren Stuckenbrook, a scholar of ancient apocalyptic literature. It helps us understand the development of Jewish and Christian thought during a crucial period of religious transformation. So what exactly is contained in this mysterious book that captivated the Qumran community and survived through Ethiopian tradition? The Book of Enoch, or 1 Enoch as scholars call it to distinguish it from later texts attributed to the same patriarch, is a complex collection divided into 5 major sections written over several centuries. The most ancient section, known as the Book of Watchers, tells an expanded version of the cryptic story mentioned briefly in Genesis 6 verse 1-4, where sons of God take human wives who bear giant offspring. In Enoch's account, these sons of God are rebellious angels called Watchers, who abandon their heavenly posts, take human wives, and teach humanity forbidden knowledge. Their giant offspring, the Nephilim, wreak havoc on earth until God sends archangels to imprison the watchers and cleanse the earth through the great flood. But the most captivating section may be the similitudes or parables of Enoch, which describes Enoch's heavenly journeys where he witnesses cosmic secrets and apocalyptic visions of the end times. Here, Enoch encounters a mysterious figure called the Son of Man, who will one day bring divine judgment, punishing the wicked and rewarding the righteous. The similarity between this figure and the language Jesus uses to describe himself in the New Testament has fascinated scholars and theologians for generations. The Book of Enoch also contains astronomical treatises, apocalyptic timelines, and ethical teachings, all purportedly revealed to Enoch during his cosmic journeys. It presents a complex cosmology where heaven consists of multiple layers, angels govern celestial bodies, and the universe operates according to precise mathematical patterns. This integration of science, mysticism, and ethics reveals a sophisticated worldview that challenges our assumptions about ancient religious thought. What's remarkable about the Book of Enoch is how it blends scientific observation, particularly astronomy, with religious and ethical teachings, notes biblical scholar Dr. John J. Collins. It represents an early attempt to create a comprehensive worldview that explains both natural phenomena and human moral experience within a single coherent framework. The text's rediscovery has forced scholars to reconsider the development of Judaism and Christianity, suggesting that apocalyptic traditions were not peripheral but central to the religious imagination that gave birth to both traditions. The Book of Enoch provides us with a window into an alternative religious tradition, one that might have shaped history differently had it remained in the biblical canon. As we begin to explore these ancient writings in greater detail, we will journey alongside Enoch through celestial realms, encounter fallen angels and cosmic secrets, and perhaps discover why this mysterious text continues to captivate the human imagination even today. The story of Enoch, the man who didn't die but was taken by God, is far more extraordinary than those 16 words in Genesis could ever suggest. Imagine standing at the threshold between worlds, where the familiar terrain of earth gives way to realms beyond mortal comprehension. This is where Enoch's extraordinary journey begins. Unlike the terse biblical account, the Book of Enoch provides a vivid, almost cinematic account of what happened when God took him away. And it came to pass, when I had spoken to my sons these commandments, that the angels called me, and the Spirit lifted me up from amongst my sons, and carried me up to the highest heaven. And the Lord called me and said to me, Enoch, sit down on my left with Gabriel. And I bowed down to the Lord. In these opening passages, we witness not a death, but a transcendence, a mortal man physically transported into the divine realm while still in his human form. As Enoch ascends through successive celestial spheres, the narrative transforms into a cosmic travelogue unlike anything else in ancient literature. The first heaven reveals a vast expanse where atmospheric phenomena are governed by angels. Enoch witnesses how clouds form, how lightning and thunder are created, and how the winds are stored in heavenly treasuries. The mechanics of weather, mysterious to ancient humans, are revealed as orderly systems under angelic administration. This wasn't merely supernatural fantasy, but an attempt to scientifically explain the world through the lens of ancient cosmology. As Enoch ascends to the second and third heavens, the landscapes become increasingly surreal and magnificent. He witnesses gates of crystal, rivers of fire, and gardens filled with trees that never wither. The scents of frankincense and myrrh permeate the air as perpetual songs of praise resound throughout these realms. Angels of various ranks and appearances, some with multiple faces, others radiating like the sun, move through their celestial duties with purpose and harmony. In the seventh heaven, the highest realm, Enoch finally encounters the throne of God, described as crystal, whose appearance was like that of ice, and its wheels were like the shining sun. The vision bears striking resemblance to Ezekiel's famous throne chariot, suggesting a shared visionary tradition among Jewish mystics. Before this throne stand the seraphim, angels with 6 wings who continuously chant, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of spirits, the whole earth is full of his glory." The majesty of these visions stands in stark contrast to Enoch's humble human origins. As he trembles in divine presence, the narrative emphasizes a profound truth, that the boundaries between human and divine are more permeable than we might assume. Through righteousness, a mortal might glimpse, and even temporarily inhabit, realms beyond ordinary human experience. During his celestial journey, Enoch witnesses a disturbing sight, a desolate ravine where angelic beings are imprisoned in darkness. These are the Watchers, divine beings originally tasked with observing humanity who have now fallen from grace through their cosmic transgression. The Book of Watchers provides the backstory to this imprisonment. 200 angelic Watchers, led by their chief Semyaza, become enamored with human women and make a pact on Mount Hermon to descend to earth. You look upon the daughters of men, how beautiful they are, and your heart lusts after them, and you say, "Let us take for ourselves wives from among the daughters of men, and let us beget children." This rebellion isn't merely about forbidden desire. The Watchers also bring to humanity knowledge that heaven had reserved for later times. Azazel teaches weapon-making and warfare. Barakal teaches astrology. Kokabel reveals the mysteries of the constellations. Shamsiel teaches the signs of the sun. Sahariel the course of the moon. Others instruct humans in root-cutting, medicine, magical arts, and cosmetics. The consequences are catastrophic. The union of Watchers and human women produces the Nephilim, gigantic offspring who consume all human provisions and then, insatiably hungry, begin to devour humans themselves and drink their blood. Violence envelops the earth as these supernatural hybrids wreak havoc. Meanwhile, humanity becomes skilled in arts of war, seduction, and manipulation thanks to the Watchers' forbidden teachings. This narrative of fallen angels represents one of the earliest attempts to explain the origin of evil and suffering. Rather than placing blame solely on human sin, as in the Garden of Eden story, the Book of Enoch suggests that corrupting knowledge and practices infiltrated human society through supernatural interference. It grapples with a profound theological problem. If God created everything good, where did evil come from? The story also serves as a warning about the dangers of knowledge divorced from wisdom and ethics. The Watchers' teachings aren't inherently evil. Astronomy, medicine, and metalworking are neutral technologies. The problem lies in humanity receiving this knowledge prematurely, without the moral development necessary to use it responsibly. This cautionary tale remains relevant in our technological age, where scientific advancement often outpaces ethical reflection. The concept of forbidden knowledge lies at the heart of the Watchers' narrative. Unlike the brief serpent episode in Genesis, where the forbidden fruit represents knowledge of good and evil, the Book of Enoch presents a comprehensive catalog of prohibited arts and sciences that transformed human civilization for the worse. Most striking is how many of these forbidden technologies align with the foundations of civilization itself. Metallurgy and weapon-making, which enabled both tools and warfare. Cosmetics and jewelry-making, which facilitated social stratification through adornment. Astronomy and astrology, which allowed prediction and religious authority. Pharmacology, root-cutting, and incantations, which formed the basis of medicine and religious practice. And Azazel taught men to make swords, and knives, and shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. This passage reveals profound ambivalence about civilization itself. The technologies that elevated humanity above mere survival also enabled unprecedented violence, environmental destruction, and social inequality. The Watchers' myth suggests that human progress came at a terrible price. Not through natural development, but through a premature infusion of knowledge we weren't ethically prepared to handle. For the ancient audience, this story explained why their world was filled with suffering, despite being created by a good God. For modern readers, it offers an uncanny parallel to contemporary anxieties about technological advancement without ethical guardrails. From nuclear weapons to genetic engineering, artificial intelligence to climate manipulation, we continue to wrestle with the consequences of knowledge that gives us godlike powers without godlike wisdom. The resolution in the book of Enoch comes when God sends the archangels to bind the watchers and destroy their offspring. Raphael binds Azazel and casts him into darkness. Gabriel destroys the Nephilim by turning them against each other. Michael chains Semyaza and his associates for 70 generations until the final judgment. Finally, God sends the great flood to cleanse the earth, a cosmic reset button on a creation experiment gone wrong. Beyond its narrative drama, the Book of Enoch presents a sophisticated cosmology that reveals how ancient people understood the universe. This wasn't merely primitive mythology, but a complex attempt to integrate observational astronomy, religious belief, and ethical principles into a coherent worldview. Enoch describes the sun and moon traveling through gates along the edges of a disc-shaped earth, explaining seasonal variations in daylight and moon phases. He details the laws governing celestial bodies, what we would now call orbital mechanics, attributing their regularity to divine ordinance rather than natural forces. Stars are understood as conscious beings, angels with designated positions and duties, explaining both fixed stars and what we now recognize as planetary movements. This celestial ordering extends to the calendar, where Enoch emphatically advocates for a 364-day solar calendar, divided into 4 91-day seasons plus intercalary days, rather than a lunar one. This seemingly technical dispute actually represented a profound religious and political conflict in Second Temple Judaism, as different calendar systems determined when religious festivals should be observed, creating sectarian divisions. The elaborate cosmic architecture in the Book of Enoch, with its multiple heavens, angelic hierarchies, and celestial mechanics, served as both scientific explanation and symbolic framework. Each element carried multiple meanings. Astronomical observation, religious significance, and moral instruction were inseparably interwoven. For instance, the orderly movement of celestial bodies demonstrated divine law and justice. Stars never deviate from their appointed courses, just as humans should never deviate from ethical commandments. When Enoch observes stars being punished for leaving their assigned positions, the astronomical observation doubles as moral instruction about the consequences of transgression. This symbolic cosmology provided ancient readers with a coherent framework for understanding both natural phenomena and human experience. It answered fundamental questions. Why does the world work as it does? What is our place in it? What happens when we violate cosmic order? How will justice ultimately prevail when it seems absent in present experience? For those drawn to the Book of Enoch today, this cosmic vision still resonates, not as literal astronomy, but as symbolic truth about order, meaning, and justice in a universe that often seems chaotic, meaningless, and unjust. The book offers a vision of reality where apparent randomness masks deep purpose, where present suffering will be redeemed by future justice, and where human existence possesses cosmic significance beyond our brief physical lives. As we follow Enoch through these celestial realms, we glimpse a worldview where science and spirituality, observation and revelation, physical reality and symbolic meaning are not opposed, but integrated. This holistic cosmic vision may be the most valuable insight the ancient text offers to our fragmented modern consciousness. While the Book of Watchers captivates readers with its tale of cosmic rebellion, it is the similitudes of Enoch, also known as the parables of Enoch, that contains the text's most profound and mysterious revelations. Written later than other sections, approximately between 50 BCE and 50 CE, these chapters represent the spiritual and philosophical apex of Enochic literature. The similitudes consist of 3 extended parables or visionary sequences, each more intense and revelatory than the last. Unlike Jesus' short, illustrative tales in the New Testament, these parables are apocalyptic visions that draw back the veil between this world and the next, revealing the cosmic machinery of divine justice that operates hidden from ordinary sight. And it came to pass, when I saw this chariot, Enoch writes, that I could not endure to look at it. And I fell upon my face and heard a holy voice saying, "This is the Son of Man who is born unto righteousness, and righteousness abides over him, and the righteousness of the head of days forsakes him not." This introduction to the mysterious Son of Man figure marks the beginning of a profound theological meditation on justice, judgment, and ultimate redemption. For a people suffering under foreign domination, first by Hellenistic rulers and later by Rome, these visions offered something precious: the assurance that the apparent triumph of evil was temporary, that cosmic justice was real, and that vindication awaited the righteous. The first parable, chapters 38 to 44, opens with a stark contrast between the destiny of the righteous and the wicked. Enoch sees a place prepared for the righteous and elect, described in terms of perfect communion with angels and the Lord of spirits. In contrast, sinners who deny the name of the Lord will be driven from the face of the earth, expelled from the community of the blessed. This vision immediately addresses one of humanity's most persistent questions: why do the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? The apparent injustice of earthly existence has troubled religious thinkers throughout history. The Similitudes doesn't dismiss this suffering, but reframes it within a larger cosmic narrative, where ultimate justice is certain, if delayed. In the second parable, chapters 45 to 57, Enoch's vision expands dramatically. He witnesses the head of days, a venerable, white-haired figure, representing God, seated on the throne of glory. But attention quickly shifts to another figure. And there I saw one who had a head of days, and his head was white like wool, and with him was another being whose countenance had the appearance of a man, and his face was full of graciousness, like one of the holy angels. This other being with a human appearance is identified as the Son of Man, the elect one, and the Messiah interchangeably. Unlike earlier Jewish messianic conceptions that focused primarily on a Davidic king who would restore Israel's political fortunes, this messianic figure has cosmic dimensions. He exists before creation, possesses universal authority, and will execute final judgment on behalf of the head of days. The visions describe how kings and the mighty who currently rule the earth will be humbled before this figure. They will fall down on their faces before him and worship, and set their hope on that Son of Man, and petition him and supplicate for mercy. Those who oppress the righteous will finally recognize their error, but too late. Judgment has already been decreed against them. The third parable, chapters 58 to 69, intensifies the apocalyptic imagery, describing cosmic upheavals and the final assembly of all humanity before the throne of judgment. The righteous receive garments of glory and dwell in eternal light, while the wicked face condemnation. The vision culminates with a magnificent scene of universal adoration, and all the angels of heaven will flock to him, and all the righteous and elect will be blessed before him, and they will worship before him and set their hope upon that Son of Man. Through these escalating visions, the Similitudes offers a dramatic resolution to the problem of evil and suffering. The current world order, with its injustice, oppression, and moral chaos, is revealed to be both temporary and already under divine judgment. A new order waits in the wings, ready to be established when the Son of Man is revealed in glory. The identity and significance of the Son of Man figure stands as the central mystery of the Similitudes. This enigmatic being is described in seemingly contradictory terms, both pre-existent with God and somehow connected to humanity, both enthroned in heaven and yet to be revealed on earth, both merciful and the executor of final judgment. What makes this figure so remarkable is how he combines attributes previously assigned to separate entities in Jewish tradition. Like the archangel Michael, he defends the righteous. Like the Davidic Messiah, he will rule with justice. Like the servant in Isaiah, he is chosen by God for a special mission. And like the one like a Son of Man in Daniel 7, he receives everlasting dominion. Yet the Similitudes takes these existing threads and weaves them into something unprecedented. This Son of Man isn't merely a future king or an angelic helper. He shares in divine authority itself. He sits on the throne of glory, receives worship, and acts as the divine agent of final judgment. For the Son of Man has appeared and sits on the throne of his glory, and all evil will pass away before his face and depart. But the word of that Son of Man will be strong before the Lord of spirits. These descriptions walk a careful theological line. The Son of Man clearly remains subordinate to the head of days, God, yet possesses authority that transcends all other heavenly and earthly beings. He occupies a unique position as God's viceroy, the appointed representative who enforces divine justice throughout creation. For communities suffering under oppression, This figure embodied hope. He represented the certainty that earthly powers who seemed invincible would eventually face judgment, that those who inflicted suffering would themselves suffer, and that those who remained faithful despite persecution would ultimately be vindicated. On that day, the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who rule the earth will fall down before him on their faces and worship and raise their hopes in that Son of Man. For from the beginning the Son of Man was hidden, and the Most High preserved him in the presence of his might and revealed him to the elect. The concept of divine justice portrayed here isn't merely punitive. It envisions a comprehensive restoration of cosmic order, a setting right of everything that has gone wrong. The righteous receive not just compensation for suffering, but elevation to a state of eternal communion with heavenly beings. The wicked experience not just punishment, but the natural consequences of their own choices, as the truth about their actions is finally revealed in the universal light of judgment. The similitudes culminates with a stunning revelation, a twist that reframes everything that came before it. In the closing chapters, as Enoch stands before the heavenly throne, witnessing these apocalyptic visions, an angel approaches him with an astonishing declaration. "You are that Son of Man who was born for righteousness, and righteousness abides over you, and the righteousness of the Head of Days forsakes you not." This dramatic identification of Enoch himself as the Son of Man represents one of the most remarkable theological developments in ancient religious literature. The observer of the visions is suddenly revealed to be the central figure within them. The human recipient of divine revelation is himself the pre-existent being who will execute divine judgment. This twist raises profound questions about identity, transformation, and the boundaries between human and divine. Has Enoch been transformed into the Son of Man through his heavenly ascent? Was he always this figure but unaware until this moment of revelation? Or does the text suggest that any truly righteous human has the potential to become an agent of divine justice? The similitudes doesn't provide clear answers, perhaps intentionally. The ambiguity allows for multiple interpretations that would resonate differently with various readers. For some, it might suggest the potential divinization of the righteous, that those who maintain perfect fidelity to God might be elevated to extraordinary cosmic roles. For others, it might indicate that Enoch was always a divine being, temporarily incarnated as human, only to return to his true nature through heavenly ascent. This identification of Enoch as the Son of Man also explains why he alone among humans was qualified to witness and record these cosmic secrets. As both human and divine, both observer and participant in the heavenly realm, he bridges worlds that normally remain separate. His dual nature makes him the perfect mediator between divine knowledge and human understanding. The theological implications of this revelation are profound. It suggests a much more fluid boundary between human and divine than most monotheistic traditions would later allow. It presents a vision where extraordinary righteousness can lead not just to reward but to ontological transformation, a change in the very nature of being. And it places a human figure at the center of the cosmic drama of judgment and restoration, serving as God's primary agent in setting right all that has gone wrong in creation. This revelatory twist may help explain why the similitudes eventually disappeared from mainstream Jewish and Christian tradition, despite its remarkable theological vision. Its apparent elevation of a human figure to divine or near-divine status would have challenged emerging orthodox boundaries in both traditions. By the time these boundaries solidified, texts like the similitudes, with their more permeable understanding of the human-divine relationship, were increasingly marginalized as heterodox or apocryphal. Yet this ancient vision of Enoch as the Son of Man, a righteous human elevated to cosmic judge, continues to captivate the imagination. It speaks to a deep human longing for justice that transcends the limitations of earthly systems, while simultaneously suggesting that humans themselves might play a role in establishing that perfect justice. This balance of transcendent hope and human agency may be the similitude's most enduring contribution to religious thought. The story of the Book of Enoch after its composition is nearly as fascinating as the text itself. Like its protagonist who vanished from the earthly realm, this influential text disappeared from mainstream religious tradition, only to exert an invisible influence that would shape theological thought for millennia. Its journey from prominence to obscurity and back again reveals much about how religious authorities determine which texts are considered sacred and which are suppressed. While largely forgotten in Western Christianity and Rabbinic Judaism for over 500 years, fragments of Enochic influence persisted like hidden streams flowing beneath the surface of official doctrine. Nowhere is this influence more evident than in the New Testament itself, where echoes of Enoch's visions appear in unexpected places. The Epistle of Jude contains the most explicit reference. It was also about these that Enoch the seventh from Adam prophesied, saying, "Behold, the Lord came with 10,000s of his holy ones, to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way." This passage directly quotes 1 Enoch 1:9, with only minor variations from the text we know today. Beyond this direct citation, Jude also refers to angels who did not stay within their own position of authority but left their proper dwelling, whom God has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day, unmistakably referencing the Watcher's narrative from Enoch. These explicit references demonstrate that at least some early Christians considered the Book of Enoch authoritative scripture. But the influence extends far beyond Jude. Biblical scholars have identified numerous passages in the Gospels, Revelation, and Pauline epistles that appear to draw from Enochic traditions. Most significant among these is Jesus' frequent self-identification as the Son of Man, who will come to judge the world, terminology and concepts that find their fullest pre-Christian expression in the similitudes of Enoch. In Matthew's Gospel, Jesus declares, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne." Matthew 25, verse 31. Language strikingly similar to the similitudes description of the Son of Man who shall sit on the throne of his glory. This and numerous other parallels suggest that early Christianity's understanding of Jesus' messianic role may have been significantly shaped by Enochic traditions, even as the book itself was gradually excluded from the developing canon. This raises profound questions about the relationship between canonical and non-canonical texts. If early Christian understanding of Jesus was influenced by Enochic literature, what does this mean for the development of Christian doctrine? The apparent influence of this excluded text on what would become official scripture complicates simple distinctions between orthodox and heterodox traditions, suggesting a more complex interplay of ideas than traditional accounts acknowledge. The transformation of Enoch within Jewish mystical tradition reached its apex in the text known as 3 Enoch, or the Hebrew Book of Enoch, written centuries after the earlier Enochic literature. Here, Enoch undergoes a startling metamorphosis. He becomes Metatron, the highest of all angels, second only to God himself. "I was enlarged and increased in size till I matched the world in length and breadth," the text recounts in Enoch's voice. "He made me a throne similar to the throne of glory, and he placed it at the door of the seventh heaven and seated me on it. And he called me the lesser Yahweh in the presence of his whole household in the height." This extraordinary elevation, a human being transformed into an angel so exalted he bears the divine name itself, represents perhaps the most extreme development of the earlier similitudes identification of Enoch as the Son of Man. In this tradition, Enoch doesn't merely observe heavenly realities, he becomes integrated into the divine power structure itself, granted cosmic authority that approaches that of God. The concept of a lesser Yahweh, a being bearing the divine name who is second only to God, pushed monotheistic boundaries to their limits. Indeed, the rabbinical establishment often viewed such mystical speculations with suspicion, precisely because they seemed to compromise strict monotheism. The Talmud contains a cautionary tale about a rabbi named Elisha ben Abuya, who became a heretic after seeing Metatron seated, which suggested 2 powers in heaven. The text hastens to explain that Metatron was permitted to sit only to record the merits of Israel, not because he shared divine authority. This tension between mystical exploration of intermediate beings and official insistence on absolute divine unity helps explain why Enochic literature moved increasingly to the margins of mainstream tradition. Yet it continued to flourish in esoteric circles, where the boundaries between human and divine were understood more fluidly. The transformation of Enoch into Metatron represents a profound meditation on human potential and limitation. It suggests that righteousness can lead not just to reward, but to ontological transformation, a change in the very nature of being. Yet it maintains a crucial distinction. Even exalted to the highest possible position, the human-turned angel remains subordinate to God, a created being rather than the creator. This theological balancing act, exploring the furthest reaches of human potential while maintaining divine transcendence, continues to fascinate spiritual seekers who find in Enoch a symbol of humanity's highest possibilities. While mainstream religious authorities increasingly marginalized Enochic literature, the text found refuge in various esoteric traditions, secret societies, and mystical movements throughout history. Like forbidden knowledge itself, the suppression of the Book of Enoch only enhanced its appeal to those drawn to hidden wisdom. Medieval Kabbalistic traditions incorporated many elements from Enochic literature into their complex mystical systems. The Zohar and related texts developed elaborate angelologies and cosmologies that built upon earlier Enochic foundations. The concept of multiple heavens, angelic hierarchies, and celestial transformations found in Enochic literature became integrated into Kabbalah's mystical vision of reality. During the Renaissance, with its revival of ancient knowledge, interest in Enochic literature resurged among certain scholarly and esoteric circles. Figures like John Dee, court astronomer to Queen Elizabeth I, claimed to receive angelic communications that built upon Enochic traditions. Dee's Enochian magic system, developed with Edward Kelly, purported to recover the language spoken by angels and by Adam before the fall, a concept related to Enoch's role as mediator between human and divine realms. Various Hermetic societies and early Masonic groups incorporated elements allegedly derived from Enochic sources into their secret teachings. These groups often viewed Enoch as a primordial initiate who received direct divine knowledge, the first in a chain of adepts preserving sacred wisdom through the ages. Whether these connections represented genuine traditions or later inventions remains debated, but they demonstrate Enoch's enduring appeal as a symbol of hidden knowledge. The Rosicrucian tradition particularly embraced Enoch as a key figure in their mythic history of secret wisdom. Some Rosicrucian texts identified Enoch with the Egyptian sage Hermes Trismegistus, creating a syncretic figure who embodied the transmission of divine knowledge across cultures. This identification reflected Renaissance theories about the Prisca Theologia, a single, true theology supposedly known to ancient sages in different traditions before becoming obscured by later religious developments. These various esoteric appropriations of Enoch share a common theme. They view him as a human recipient of direct divine knowledge, unmediated by institutional religious structures. For groups often positioned at odds with established religious authorities, Enoch represented an alternative source of spiritual legitimacy, a figure who accessed divine truth directly rather than through ecclesiastical hierarchies. The saga of Enochic literature thus becomes a study in how suppressed knowledge finds alternative channels of transmission when excluded from official canons. Like water finding paths around obstacles, the influence of these texts continued to flow through history's hidden passages, even when blocked from mainstream religious discourse. While Western Christianity gradually excluded the Book of Enoch from its canon, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church stands as the remarkable exception. There, 1 Enoch has remained canonical scripture for approximately 1,600 years, read alongside Genesis and Revelation as an authoritative sacred text. This unique preservation offers profound insights into how differently Christianity might have developed had different canonical decisions been made. For Ethiopian Christians, Enochic literature isn't obscure apocrypha, but living scripture that informs their understanding of cosmology, ethics, and eschatology. In our tradition, Enoch is revered as a great prophet who walked with God and received divine revelations, explains Ethiopian Orthodox priest Abba Yohannes Gebre Egziaber. His writings are considered sacred because they reveal mysteries about the spiritual world and God's ultimate plan for creation. We read Enoch's visions alongside other scriptures to gain a more complete understanding of divine truth. Ethiopian tradition preserved complete manuscripts of Firm Enoch in Gez, ancient Ethiopic, when the text disappeared elsewhere. When European scholars first encountered these manuscripts in the 18th century, they were astonished to discover this lost biblical book still in active use. The first complete Western translation by Richard Lawrence in 1821 launched the modern scholarly study of Enochic literature. The Ethiopian preservation of Enoch raises important questions about canonicity and religious authority. Who decides which texts deserve inclusion in sacred scripture? On what basis are such decisions made? The Ethiopian example demonstrates that different branches of the same religion can make significantly different determinations about which texts carry divine authority. For Western scholars, the Ethiopian tradition serves as a crucial reminder that what we consider mainstream religious development often reflects specific cultural and political circumstances, rather than universal consensus. Had different historical forces prevailed, texts now considered apocryphal might have remained central, while some canonical texts might have been marginalized. The contemporary study of the Book of Enoch reveals a fascinating divide between scholarly and popular approaches. Academic researchers meticulously analyze linguistic features, historical contexts, and intertextual relationships, while spiritual seekers often approach the text as a source of hidden wisdom and cosmic secrets. This divergence reflects broader tensions between critical and devotional approaches to sacred texts. Scholars might view Enochic literature primarily as valuable evidence for understanding the development of Jewish apocalyptic thought during the Second Temple period. They analyze how these texts reflect historical circumstances, theological innovations, and literary conventions of their time. The Book of Enoch provides an essential window into the apocalyptic worldview that flourished around the turn of the era, explains Dr. John J. Collins, a prominent scholar of apocalyptic literature. Its complex development helps us trace how Jewish thought evolved during this crucial period when both Rabbinic Judaism and early Christianity were taking shape. Meanwhile, contemporary spiritual seekers might approach the same text looking for perennial wisdom that transcends historical context. Cosmic truths about the nature of reality, the struggle between good and evil, or the potential for human transformation. For them, the historical origins of the text matter less than its capacity to illuminate spiritual questions that remain relevant across millennia. When I read Enoch's visions of cosmic justice, I feel a deep resonance with my own spiritual longing for a world where goodness ultimately prevails, says Sarah Meadows, a member of an interfaith study group that explores apocryphal texts. Whether these words were written thousands of years ago or yesterday doesn't change their power to speak to the human heart's yearning for meaning. This tension between historical critical and spiritual devotional approaches isn't unique to Enochic literature, but affects how we approach all sacred texts. Yet perhaps there's wisdom in respecting both perspectives. The historical study helps us understand the human context in which these remarkable texts emerged, while spiritual readings keep alive the transformative potential that has made them endure for millennia. The Book of Enoch thus continues to occupy a unique position, recognized by scholars as a crucial historical document, while simultaneously functioning as living scripture for millions of Ethiopian Christians and as a source of spiritual insight for countless others drawn to its apocalyptic visions and cosmic mysteries. This dual status makes it a perfect case study in how ancient religious texts continue to shape both academic understanding and spiritual experience in the contemporary world. Few texts better demonstrate how writings from the ancient past can remain vibrantly alive in the present, continuing to challenge, inspire, and transform those who encounter their extraordinary visions. Throughout our exploration of the Book of Enoch, its cosmic journeys, fallen angels, apocalyptic visions, and mysterious Son of Man, we focused primarily on what the text contains and how it has influenced religious thought. But perhaps an equally important question remains. Why does this ancient text continue to captivate our imagination? What does our fascination with Enoch reveal about our own psychological and spiritual needs? The enduring appeal of Enochic literature isn't merely academic or historical. It speaks to something deeper in the human psyche, fundamental needs and longings that transcend cultural boundaries and historical periods. By understanding the psychological resonance of these ancient visions, we gain insight not just into the text, but into ourselves. For many contemporary readers, the primary attraction of the Book of Enoch lies in its promise of access to hidden knowledge. In a world where information proliferates yet wisdom seems increasingly scarce, the idea of receiving direct divine revelation holds powerful appeal. Enoch represents the ultimate insider, the human being granted access to cosmic secrets normally reserved for angels. There's something deeply compelling about the idea that the universe contains hidden knowledge that could transform our understanding of reality, explains Dr. Rachel Sullivan, a psychologist who studies religious experience. The Book of Enoch promises exactly that, a glimpse behind the veil of ordinary perception into a realm of higher truth. This promise resonates with a fundamental human desire to transcend our limited perspective and access deeper layers of meaning. This desire for transcendent knowledge isn't merely intellectual curiosity. It often emerges from existential anxiety, the struggle to make sense of suffering, injustice, and mortality. When conventional explanations feel inadequate, apocalyptic literature like the Book of Enoch offers an alternative framework, a cosmic narrative where apparent chaos conceals divine purpose, where current suffering serves a greater plan, and where ultimate justice awaits beyond the horizon of ordinary time. For those who feel marginalized by mainstream religious institutions or disillusioned with conventional spiritual answers, Enochic literature offers something particularly valuable: an alternative spiritual lineage. It suggests that institutional religion might have excluded crucial spiritual truths, and that authentic wisdom sometimes flows through channels outside official hierarchies. Perhaps the most powerful psychological appeal of the Book of Enoch lies in its vision of cosmic justice. In a world where wrongdoers often prosper, while the righteous suffer, where systemic injustice persists despite centuries of human striving, the Book of Enoch offers a powerful reassurance. The moral arc of the universe bends toward justice, even when that justice lies beyond our temporal horizon. The detailed descriptions of judgment in the similitudes, where kings and rulers who abuse their power finally face accountability, provide catharsis for those who have experienced oppression. These visions articulate a deeply human longing, that those who inflict suffering will ultimately understand the pain they've caused, that the voiceless will finally be heard, and that the true moral nature of all actions will be revealed beyond dispute. When I read about the Son of Man bringing justice, sitting on the throne of glory, and judging those who have abused their power, I feel a profound sense of hope, shares Marcus Johnson, a community organizer who discovered the Book of Enoch while searching for spiritual resources during social justice work. In a world where justice often seems unattainable, Enoch's visions remind me that what we see now isn't the final word. There's a deeper moral order underlying reality, even when it's obscured by present circumstances. This vision of cosmic justice differs significantly from mere vengeance. The judgment described in Enoch isn't primarily punitive, but revelatory. It unveils the true nature of actions that were previously disguised by power and privilege. When the similitudes describe oppressors recognizing the righteous whom they persecuted, it portrays a moment of moral clarity where false narratives dissolve and authentic values are finally recognized. For those struggling against injustice today, such visions provide not just comfort but courage. They suggest that efforts toward justice participate in a cosmic movement larger than any individual or generation. Present struggles, however painful or seemingly futile, contribute to an ultimate resolution where righteousness prevails not through force, but through the final unveiling of truth. Beyond cosmic justice, the Book of Enoch addresses a fundamental human quest: the search for meaning in a vast and often bewildering universe. Through its elaborate cosmology and angelic hierarchies, the text offers a comprehensive framework for understanding existence itself. Modern science has revealed a universe of incomprehensible scale, billions of galaxies stretching across billions of light years, operating according to laws that defy intuitive understanding. This vastness, while awe-inspiring, can also engender existential anxiety. What meaning can human existence hold against such an immense backdrop? What significance can our moral choices claim in a cosmos that dwarfs our entire species to insignificance? The Book of Enoch's detailed cosmology, though scientifically outdated, offers psychological insight into how humans integrate scientific knowledge with existential meaning. It presents a universe that is vast yet comprehensible, mysterious yet ordered, transcendent yet morally responsive to human behavior. The text suggests that cosmic order and moral order are interconnected, that the same divine intelligence that regulates celestial bodies also distinguishes between righteousness and wickedness. The elaborate cosmic architecture in Enoch's visions speaks to our need to locate human experience within a meaningful framework, explains philosopher Dr. Michael Chen. Even today, when we understand the physical universe very differently, we still grapple with the same existential questions. How does human life relate to cosmic processes? Is there moral meaning built into the structure of reality, or is ethics merely a human convention? Enoch suggests the former, that moral truth is as fundamental to cosmic reality as physical laws. For contemporary readers, the specific astronomical details matter less than this integration of physical and moral order. The Book of Enoch portrays a universe where nothing is random, where every cosmic phenomenon, from the movement of stars to the changing seasons, participates in a purposeful design that ultimately serves justice and truth. This vision of an intrinsically meaningful cosmos continues to resonate even in our scientific age. The Book of Enoch's influence extends far beyond religious circles into contemporary popular culture. Its imagery and concepts have permeated fiction, film, television, and music, often reaching audiences who have never encountered the original text. In literature, Milton's Paradise Lost drew inspiration from Enochic traditions about fallen angels, while more recently, novels like Anne Rice's Memnoch the Devil and Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy incorporate elements from Enochic cosmology. Films such as Darren Aronofsky's Noah, 2014, explicitly drew from the Book of Enoch to supplement the brief biblical account, bringing Watchers and Nephilim to mainstream movie audiences. Television series including Supernatural, Lucifer, and Good Omens have popularized concepts of angelic hierarchies and cosmic conflicts derived partly from Enochic literature. In music, artists across genres from metal to hip-hop have referenced Enoch, fallen angels, and Nephilim in lyrics that explore themes of rebellion, forbidden knowledge, and cosmic justice. This widespread cultural diffusion suggests that Enochic imagery resonates with contemporary psychological needs and aesthetic sensibilities. The fallen Watchers embody modern anxieties about technological overreach, supernatural beings who granted humans knowledge we weren't ethically prepared to handle, with catastrophic results. The Nephilim represent fears about genetic manipulation and hybridization, boundary-crossing entities whose very existence destabilizes natural categories. Meanwhile, the apocalyptic visions in the similitudes speak to contemporary ecological and social anxieties. In an era of climate crisis, political instability, and technological disruption, apocalyptic frameworks help process fears about civilization's sustainability and humanity's future. The Book of Enoch offers a template for understanding historical crisis within a larger narrative where catastrophe precedes renewal and where current disorder ultimately yields to higher order. This cultural persistence demonstrates how ancient apocalyptic imagery continues to provide symbolic resources for processing contemporary anxieties. Even secularized and recontextualized, these images retain psychological power because they address perennial human concerns: the proper limits of knowledge, the consequences of transgression, the relationship between humanity and nature, and the hope for ultimate justice amid apparent chaos. Perhaps the most striking aspect of Enoch's contemporary relevance lies in how it addresses questions at the boundary between science and spirituality. In an age often characterized by polarization between scientific materialism and religious fundamentalism, the Book of Enoch offers a fascinating historical example of how these realms might be integrated. The ancient authors of Enochic literature didn't distinguish sharply between scientific observation and religious revelation. Their astronomical and meteorological observations were seamlessly integrated with moral teachings and theological claims. They didn't see the physical mechanics of celestial bodies as separate from their spiritual significance. Both dimensions were unified aspects of a single cosmic reality. This integrated perspective speaks to contemporary seekers who find both strict materialistic reductionism and rigid religious literalism intellectually unsatisfying. It suggests the possibility of a worldview where scientific understanding enhances rather than diminishes spiritual meaning, where knowing how the universe works physically doesn't preclude asking why it exists or what moral purpose it might serve. What fascinates me about the Book of Enoch is how it refuses the compartmentalization we often impose between scientific and spiritual questions, reflects Dr. Sarah Williams, a physicist who also studies ancient texts. The authors were doing their best astronomy while simultaneously exploring moral and existential questions. It's a reminder that human curiosity doesn't naturally respect the boundaries we've constructed between disciplines. For all its mythological elements and historical distance, the Book of Enoch continues to pose profound questions that remain relevant in our scientific age. What are the ethical implications of technological advancement? How does human activity fit within larger cosmic patterns? What moral responsibilities accompany knowledge? What visions of justice should guide our social arrangements? These questions transcend historical periods and cultural frameworks. The enduring fascination with this ancient text reveals a persistent human longing to see beyond immediate circumstances, to glimpse a larger pattern that makes sense of our experiences, that places our brief lives within a meaningful cosmic context, and that assures us that moral truth will ultimately prevail, despite apparent evidence to the contrary. Whether approached as sacred scripture, historical artifact, psychological case study, or literary inspiration, the Book of Enoch continues to challenge and expand our understanding of reality's dimensions. Its visions of celestial journeys, fallen angels, cosmic justice, and human transformation remain powerful symbols through which we explore the boundaries of knowledge, the nature of good and evil, and the ultimate meaning of our existence. Like Enoch himself, the boundary-crossing figure who moved between earth and heaven, human and divine realms, these ancient texts continue to traverse the boundaries of culture, religion, and time. They remind us that the human quest for meaning, justice, and transcendence finds expression in every era, speaking in different languages yet addressing the same fundamental questions that define our humanity. The enduring power of Enoch's story speaks profoundly to those of us who have walked longer paths in life. Like Enoch, many of us stand at a unique vantage point, having witnessed enough of life to recognize both its patterns and its mysteries. We've seen justice delayed, sometimes beyond our understanding. We've experienced moments when the world's complexity seemed overwhelming, when the divide between our ideals and reality felt unbridgeable. Yet Enoch's journey reminds us that wisdom often comes through transcending our limited perspectives. After decades of living, we understand that immediate appearances rarely tell the complete story. The leaders who seem invincible today will pass into history tomorrow. The injustices that appear permanent are ultimately temporary against the backdrop of time's greater arc. Perhaps the most valuable lesson from this ancient text is its affirmation that our search for meaning isn't futile. Our deep sense that there must be more to existence than what immediately meets the eye, that there must be some greater order behind apparent chaos, reflects a profound truth about reality itself. Our moral intuitions, our sense of justice, our yearning for transcendence, these aren't mere psychological quirks, but reflections of a deeper pattern woven into existence. As we navigate life's final chapters, Enoch offers a liberating perspective, that our lives participate in a story larger than we can fully comprehend from our limited vantage point. This doesn't require blind faith in ancient cosmologies, but rather an openness to the possibility that our brief existence connects to patterns and purposes that extend beyond our individual horizons. With this understanding comes a profound peace, a recognition that, while we may not see ultimate justice in our lifetime, our commitment to goodness and truth contributes to its eventual fulfillment. If Enoch's journey has resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What aspects of this ancient text speak to your own spiritual questions or life experiences? Your perspective adds valuable depth to our collective understanding. Don't miss our upcoming explorations of other forgotten texts and ancient mysteries. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to join us on these journeys of discovery. If you found value in today's exploration, please consider sharing this video with friends or family members who might appreciate these insights. Your support through likes and shares helps this content reach others seeking deeper understanding of our spiritual heritage. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of wisdom that spans millennia, yet speaks to our contemporary search for meaning.